we'll start with our number one lesson, which was one of our hardest. Do a demo with your own data. So since Esker is not SAP specific, it is important to conduct comprehensive over-the-shoulder sessions with your own data. So while Esker is an SAP partner, that just ensures that they interface reliably with SAP. It doesn't mean that Esker has all the functionality of SAP or whatever ERP system you may be using. So we discovered that GPI apparently uses a lot of SAP PO processing functionality that other companies may not be using. So this required multiple enhancements throughout the implementation. So just a few examples of those. GR-based IVPOs are optional in SAP. We use both at Graphic. Esker's out of the box is configured to use GR-based IVs everywhere, so we had to modify that. And Esker units and dollars were set to 2 decimal places. For example, as a manufacturing company, we have multiple units of measures that have 3 or more decimal places. We had to get an enhancement for that. We also require our actual images to be sent over and housed in SAP, not a link back to Esker. So those are just a few of the things that we had to make some enhancements for. And then the last thing is when you do your over-the-shoulder, it is very important to demo using your most complex processes and invoices. So our thought here is if it can handle your most complex invoices, it will be able to handle your easiest. And this was something that we did not get all of our scenarios in. And some of the stuff was we just didn't realize it because we were using a bolt-on. And so we did not realize how much was actually happening in SAP versus the bolt-on. So that's very important. So this was a big lesson that we learned throughout the process. The second lesson, be very specific with your scope and enhancement. So our SOW for this project really contained no additional hours for enhancements to the PO processing part. We knew it covered our highly customized NonPO manual payment request form. Esker does have a standard. Ours is very customized, and we wanted to continue with that. Our original SOW contained 224 hours of enhancements. Again, those are primarily covering our NonPO process. We are currently over 600 plus hours, and most of that is due to enhancements on the PO processing side. Also, something that we did not realize initially were the hypercare hours were included in that original 224 hours, and Esker normally recommends about 40 hours get reserved for hypercare. We allocated those 224 hours very quickly without realizing that we needed to reserve about 40 for our hypercare. So it's just very important that you understand exactly what your hour estimates are detailing. Lesson number 3, at Graphic, with the cloud solution, the user maintenance moved to AP. So access and maintenance for our on-prem solution was entirely handled by our SAP security team as it was a bolt-on. It was embedded in SAP. They took care of everything. But Esker user maintenance is a combined effort between IT and AP. So our new user setup and access requests are done through our access request system, which is managed by AP, and it's fairly automatic. But any updates to your access, terminations, updating the DAL table within Esker, all those things are maintained by accounts payable. So be sure that you think about it and take this into account when moving to a cloud solution. Who's going to be handling your security? So you make sure that you have the staff for that. Lesson number 4 for us, this was another big one. Do a mock cutover if at all possible. A GPI's test environment for SAP is not conducive to doing a cutover. Our test environment isn't refreshed very often. So that makes testing any new solutions more challenging. So we had to enter all of our test data as we were testing it. So all of our POs, GRs, and related invoices. So this limited our testing. So we didn't have an updated test environment that had some recent POs that might already have some GRs that we could then go pull some invoices that had not been received and enter them and run our testing that way. Multiple issues were discovered during our hypercare process that we feel would have been found if we were able to do a mock cutover. So very important. If you can do this at all, you should definitely do a mock cutover. So our lesson number 5, build a fully detailed master data plan. So this lesson ties in with the security lesson, but it's different in the fact that user IDs in Esker are email addresses. Within our SAP environment, our user IDs are a combination of last and first names. So even though there's a place for email addresses within SAP, not everyone had those updated. So the way our workflows work here, we route them to the buyer or requisitioner on the PO, and that information on the PO is your SAP user ID. So we had to go and build an ERP table in Esker to accommodate the workflow routing that would cross-reference our SAP user IDs to our Esker IDs so that the workflows would work as desired. required. Also, we initially only set up users that had attended our multiple Esker training sessions that we had ahead of time. Our thought process here was that a lot of people may have access to our previous system that either didn't use it any longer or had access and never used it, and we didn't want to set up all of those extraneous users inside of Esker. This was a mistake. So within the first couple of days, our processors found that they couldn't workflow a ton of invoices because the buyer or the requisitioner that they needed wasn't set up in Esker. So our solution to this was to take one of our active workflow report from our on-prem system and cross-reference that to our Esker users. And we just did a mass setup of any people that had an active workflow. We got them set up in Esker. This helped tremendously. Our processors could start workflowing invoices, and then any new users, because you do receive an email from Esker each time you have a workflow. So new users could either ask someone at their locations for help, or they could contact us for our training materials, and we could help them through the initial use of Esker. We're over a month into our go live, and we are still receiving just multiple invoice requests every day for access. So next, we're going to look at some of the benefits that we got from Esker. So they have better OCR. Their OCR is much better than what we had with our on-prem. So you have faster processing with fewer corrections, more touchless points. They also have machine learning. So their machine learning normally learns by the third pass, the third time you receive an invoice. This also results in fewer touches by our processors. Both of those points should allow us to put even more of our vendors on auto post, resulting in more touchless invoices for us, which is our goal. Also, all the feedback that we received from our AP processors and other users has been very positive. Esker is very easy to use and intuitive, and it's customizable to each user. The search functions, this is where we're getting a lot of compliments. So their search functions are very simple. They have numerous filters that are available that allow your user to search however they want. They can search very broadly, they can search very narrowly, and they can do all that within Esker. You don't have to run a report that just contains a ton of information that you don't need, then export that to Excel, and then use your filters there. You can actually do all that work inside of Esker. So that has been a huge plus for us. As far as reporting capabilities and dashboards, they have a lot of very good dashboards and reporting. Since we've just been live a month, we're just beginning our journey with the reporting. So far, we have really liked what we've seen, and we plan to expand our use, both of the dashboards and more reporting going forward. We went live on September 1st. Instead of having a 40-hour extended hypercare, we had hypercare throughout the month of September to address those issues that we previously discussed. So we actually have a few items that are still being worked, but we're wrapping all that up, and we'll start moving into our next phase. So in the month of September, we received 30,522 invoices into Esker. 7,500 of those were PO-based. Right at 5,700 were non-PO-based. And for our non-PO-based invoices, the way we have those set up, about 98% of those auto post after approval, so they never are touched by AP personnel. So our invoice posting did start very slowly for us, again, as we discovered that we had posting complexities in SAP that we didn't realize from the bolt-on. But it did pick up by the end of the month, and we are continuing to see improvement, as I mentioned, in posting as we continue on. So we've gotten some fixes in that have really helped, and we're really starting to pick up the pace on our posting. And I will say that Esker has done a wonderful job, and they've worked very efficiently to address all of the issues that we have found since go live.